Assalamualaikum. Suaranya nggak kelihatan, Indira.
Assalamualaikum.
Indita masih mute. Kamu masih mute, Indita. You're still on mute.
Okay, Pak. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
It's okay. Now it's okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and speakers. I sincerely welcome you to the commemoration of 67 years Indonesia-Brazil bilateral relationship presented by Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in cooperation with Embassy of Indonesia for Brazil and Embassy of Brazil for Indonesia. I would like to express my highest gratitude to our distinguished guests and speakers for your time to attend this event. Before we start, I would like to tell you about today's agenda. We will start first on welcoming remarks by Vice Chairwoman for International Relations Kadin Indonesia, and then followed by keynote remarks by Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. After that, we will have high-level panel discussion with Mr. Agung Laksamana, Bilateral Committee Kadin Indonesia for Brazil as the moderator. The panel discussion is then presented by our distinguished speakers, His Excellency, Mr. Jose Amir da Costa Dornelles, Ambassador of Federative Republic of Brazil to the Republic of Indonesia. His Excellency, Mr. Edi Yusuf, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to the Federative Republic of Brazil. Mr. Daryanto Harsono, Director of America II of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. Ms. Lig Virgili Nogueira, Executive Director of Brazilian Beef Exporters Association, and Mr. Nicholas Kanter, President Director of Pale Indonesia. After the panel discussion ended, we will also have questions and answer session and wrap-up session. Ladies and gentlemen, I will hand over to Mr. Agung Laksamana now to officially start and lead the event. Please, Mr. Agung, the time is yours.
Thank you, Indita. Selamat pagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bom dia, as they said in Brazil, Portuguese. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our webinar presented by Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in cooperation with the Embassy of Indonesia for Brazil and also Embassy for Brazil for Indonesia. I'm Agung Laksamana and I'll be your moderator this morning. So, ladies and gentlemen, this year is a very special year for all of us. This year is marked with the commemorations of 67 years of Indonesian-Brazil relationship. This year we celebrate our 67 years of friendship, and the relationship goes as far back as 1953 events. To give you a bit of context, I read an interesting article written by our ambassador at the Jakarta Post recently. So during the President Sukarno historic visit to Brasilia in 1959, at one time, both President Sukarno and the Brazilian then Juscelino Kubitschek was on a sightseeing helicopter flight over the new capital city of construction site at Brasilia. President Juscelino suddenly gave a large wooden stick to President Sukarno, and Pak Sukarno asked him, "What's this stick for?" And then President Brazil said, "Well, just look down carefully and choose a site for the future of Indonesian embassy." And he said to President Sukarno, "Just throw the stick. Wherever it falls, there it shall be built." And so it was done. Just like that, the embassy was built on plot number 20, where we have our home as Indonesian embassy in Brazil. So more than 6 decades now, the relationship between the two countries are getting stronger. And this webinar is to raise more awareness about the two countries, in particular about exploring opportunities, potential collaborations, either on economy, business, culture, tourism, even hopefully sports. Who knows? With the help of Brazil's soccer team, maybe Indonesia's soccer team might win the World Cup one day. Who knows? So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express our highest gratitude to our distinguished speakers and panelists this morning. His Excellency Mahendra Siregar, our Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ibu Sinta Kamdani, Vice Chairwoman for International Relations, Kadin, His Excellency Pak Edi Yusuf, the Ambassador of Republic of Indonesia to Brazil, His Excellency Mr. Jose Amir da Costa Dornelles, the Ambassador of the Federation Republic of Brazil to Indonesia, Pak Daryanto Harsono, Director of America Second Region to Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Mrs. Leiji Nogueira, Executive Director of Brazilian Beef Exporter Association, or ABEC, call it, and obviously Pak Nicolas Kantor, or Pak Nico, President Director of Vale Indonesia. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like now to invite for the welcoming remarks our Vice Chairwoman for International Relations Kadin Indonesia, Ibu Sinta Kamdani. Ibu Sinta, over to you.
Thank you, Agung. It's so honor for me to be here with all of you this morning. Your Excellency, Bapak Mahendra Segegag, Bapak Edi Yusuf, Mr. Jose Ahmed da Costa Dornelles, of course, good friend Nico, and honorable panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm representing Kadin Indonesia. I would like to welcome you all to join this Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Embassy of the Federative Republic of Brazil, and welcome you to the celebration of the 67 years of Indonesia-Brazil diplomatic relations. In this opportunity, I would like to belatedly congratulate Ambassador Dornelles and our Brazilian colleagues in this forum of your Independence Day, which fell last week on the 7th of September 2020. It is incredible that we have been friends for 67 years now, and I think it's very few of us are blessed with such long friendship with anyone, and I do hope that our friendship will go stronger and we will grow older together as nations. Brazil and Indonesia share a similar characteristic in many aspects. We both are developing countries with huge and culturally diverse population. We are blessed with plentiful natural resources, home to largest tropical forests in the world. As members of the G20, it is also not too much to say that we both are also economic giants in our respective region. With so many similar traits, it is inevitable that Indonesia and Brazil may compete in certain aspects of the economy. Moreover, in the age of trade war and global economic shrinkage due to the pandemic, we may be tempted to think that when economic giants meet, they tend to clash out and fight for dominance in economic relations. However, unlike some other economic giants of the world, I believe that Indonesia and Brazil can coexist and choose to nurture economic cooperation, which will be mutually beneficial to our respective economy and help each other to get out of the economic crisis, especially caused by the COVID pandemic. Despite our huge economic potential, trade and investment activities between Indonesia and Brazil have been less than what we hoped for. Brazil might be Indonesia's biggest trading partner in the Latin America. However, over the past 10 years, our trading activity tend to be stagnated. Indonesia has never exported to Brazil over $1.7 billion per annum in the last 10 years. And in the past 3 years, we see a declining trend in our export to Brazil. So much so that our total export to Brazil in 2019 is only amounting to $997 million US. At the same time, Brazil also has exported more to Indonesia with a total export in 2019 valued up to $1.93 billion US and a surplus for Brazil at 938 million US dollar. Indonesia export to Brazil is also much less than our neighboring countries in ASEAN, primarily Vietnam and Thailand, which amounting to about 2.52 billion US dollar and 1.53 billion US dollar respectively in 2019. Why I'm sharing you this data? Because we have a big homework here and how we can increase more of our trade cooperation. This data also show the physical distance, which tend to be cited as the most common challenge to trade and invest between Indonesia and Brazil. This should not be an excuse for us to be satisfied to the status quo in our bilateral economic cooperations. We have to invent ways to tap more into our bilateral economic potential through trade and investment. In the occasion of the 67th diplomatic anniversary of Indonesia and Brazil, I would like to invite you all to join our thoughts and efforts together to develop the existing economic relation to be more robust and more mutually beneficial in the coming years. Despite facing an unprecedented global pandemic and a gloomy global economic projection, Indonesia and Brazil should not sit idly by and stop exploring how we can complement each other's needs in this difficult time. Let us evaluate what is lacking and desired in our existing relation. Beyond evaluating, I would like to invite and urge all of us to go beyond the problems and focus on generating practical solutions that we business and government of the two countries can do together to boost our bilateral economic activities in a more mutually beneficial way despite this challenging time. Let's explore that what more we can do and what more we should do. Let's also look up the economic potential that we have not tapped before. Perhaps we can work on a supply chain on goods and manufacturing products we produce. Let's also look at not only on the good-based trading, but also in the services trade. All in all, let's use this opportunity to explore what more Indonesia can do, what more Brazil can do to make our economic activities to be more productive and more efficient, and also more lucrative for business players in both countries. What Indonesian government and Brazilian government can do to facilitate a more efficient and competitive bilateral business activities. Perhaps it is about time that Indonesia and Brazil form a trade agreement to catalyze the currently untapped economic potential. With this in mind, I wish you a very meaningful and fruitful discussion. Kadin Indonesia will be looking forward to the recommendation, cooperation for a solution, actions, and perhaps business transaction that we can do together as soon as possible in bringing Indonesia-Brazil bilateral economic cooperation even closer and more beneficial for both countries. May this diplomatic anniversary be a milestone that create more substantial and concrete economic activities to the benefit of both Indonesia and Brazil businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Sintas. Well said. I think one of the key takeaways what Ibu says, go beyond problems, working together, let's explore more. I think this is one of the key things that we're going to explore during this webinar. So, ladies and gentlemen, with great honor, together with us this morning as our keynote speaker on government's perspective regarding Indonesia-Brazil diplomatic relations, we have our own Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Pak Mahendra Siregar, as we also may aware that he's currently leading the Special Team for Economic Recovery Accelerations within the Foreign Ministry Office. So it is our great pleasure to pass the time to Your Excellency, Pak Mahendra. Pak Mahendra, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Agung Laksamana of the Bilateral Committee of a Chamber of Commerce for Brazil. My very good friend, Ms. Sinta Kamdani, our energetic and strong-willed Vice Chair of National or Indonesia Chamber of Commerce, His Excellency Ambassador Jose Amir da Costa de Meles, Excellency, my good friend, Ambassador Edi Yusuf, distinguished speaker, Ms. Diego Virgili Norguera, the Executive Director of Brazilian Beef Exporters Association, my very good friend, Mr. Nico Kanter, the CEO of PT Bali Indonesia, a Brazilian-based global company that I coincidentally have little experience and know a little bit about. And of course, a milestone or a good testimony how Indonesia-Brazil partnership could be brought to a different level, to a higher level, because this company has even completed the divestment program before the timeline. So there's something we can learn from a best practice perspective. Mr. Daryanto Harsono, the Director of America of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, ladies and gentlemen. A very pleasant morning to everyone in Indonesia and good evening to everyone joining us today from Brazil. It gives me a great pleasure to speak today on this virtual platform to mark our long-standing bilateral relations and to extend our warmest greetings and best wishes to our friends in Brazil on the commemoration of the 198th anniversary of the Independence Day of the Federative Republic of Brazil, just last week on September 7th. I wish to commend the Indonesia Chamber of Commerce and Industry for organizing this event in commemorating the 67th anniversary of the two countries' bilateral relations. As the anniversary comes with the backdrop of pandemic and subsequent economic crisis, we should spare no efforts in utilizing this important impetus to identify innovative approaches in order to expand further our mutually beneficial cooperation on sectors that are essentials in addressing those challenges. Our two economies are complementary and are the largest economies in our respective regions. Both countries have experienced and overcome impacts of past economic crises and have managed to recover and come out even stronger. Therefore, we have very strong confidence and strong basis to collaborate, and we should also continue exchanging notes and identify innovative strategies to expand our bilateral cooperation, particularly in post-pandemic economic recovery efforts. COVID-19 pandemic has nonetheless disrupted businesses everywhere, and most governments currently are placing their priorities to contain the virus from spreading and providing their best treat to those affected by the pandemic. Many containment policies have brought the industries and businesses to a temporary adjustment, and thus it has significantly impacted our economic growth. Our GDP, Indonesia GDP, in the second quarter of this year, affected by just minus over 5% growth, but we are hopeful that the third quarter and the fourth quarter of this year would somewhat turn around that situation. Having considered these elements as the backdrop, Indonesia has been cautiously restarted the economic engines. But however, our main efforts remain to control the pandemic and flatten the curve. In this context, there are numbers of efforts we should take into our consideration to expand our collaboration, such as ensuring the continuous logistical flows on trade in essential products needed by both countries in the middle of this pandemic. Collaboration on healthcare-related sectors is essential, as we have been able to ramp up the production of essential medical supplies. We could exchange notes where we could complement each other. We should also identify the possibility for both countries to exchange notes on the possibility to cooperate on vaccines and medicines production in the bigger picture. Indonesia is now pursuing cooperation with many countries with some vaccine producers to make sure that we have adequate vaccines in due course. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in addition, as Indonesia-Mercosur SEPA talks are on the way, kickstarted by Indonesia-Mercosur Perspective Dialogue in November 2019, we are expecting to achieve progress to form an effective and potential trade partnership, including with the largest economy in the region, Brazil, in the next few years. As our only strategic partner in the Latin American region, Indonesia perceives Brazil as an important trade partner with great potentials. This is why Indonesia is honored to host the past 2 consecutive years the Indonesia, Latin America, and the Caribbean Business Forum, which should also serve as an essential platform for Indonesia and Latin American and the Caribbean businesses to meet, interact, explore, and undertake business potential cooperation. As part of our continued support to strengthen economic cooperation between the 2 regions, this year's, the second INA-LAC Business Forum will take place virtually in November. It is our great pleasure to extend all of you our cordial invitation to participate in that very important and strategic forum. Although the event will be virtual, but we will try to innovate so as to allow as many possible to participate and have the opportunities to meet your potential counterparts. In addition, with the support of the diplomatic missions of Latin America and the Caribbean here in Jakarta, and the support of the Indonesia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we hope to launch the establishment of the Indonesia, Latin America, and the Caribbean Chamber of Commerce to serve as platform for businesses from Latin America, particularly from Brazil, to explore the potentials in Indonesia and the larger region of the ASEAN Economic Community. Last but not the least, I wish to underline the other potential economic partnerships that our friends from Brazil may wish to explore on investment. As we have learned that the global supply chain have been disrupted due to trade war and COVID-19 pandemic impact. Therefore, we wish to embrace the potential collaboration in our common efforts to diversify the existing global value chain so as to enable us to continue our economic cooperation undisrupted in the future. With abundant natural resources, a young demographic, strategic geographic location, sustained political stability, and the growth potential and the conclusion of the Regional Economic Comprehensive Partnership RCEP agreement, we would like to invite industries in Brazil to utilize Indonesia as part of your global value chain in the region. We will also utilize the opportunity of our partnership with Brazil to promote outbound investment from Indonesia, utilizing the significant potential in the Mercosur region. To conclude, I would like to thank once again the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce for organizing this timely event. Special appreciation also goes to all speakers who will contribute greatly to our common efforts in utilizing this commemorative momentum to expand our mutual beneficial partnership. I wish you all a fruitful discussion and looking forward to the concrete recommendations of this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellencies, for your remarks and keynotes. And what we learned, a few things from your presentation just now is about the importance of collaborations. We need to explore complementing each other's across the regions and also strategic partnership. And more importantly, as Indonesia Latin America Business Forum, which is a great momentum that we're going to maximize that if we can make that some sort of trade agreement in coming months. So thank you so much, Your Excellency, Mahendra, for your keynote remark this morning. So ladies and gentlemen, before we go to the panel discussion, let me remind you that you can ask questions from the chat box. We can also make an interactive discussion later on. You can ask directly during the Q&A, but after the panel discussion, obviously. So make sure to mention your name, your company, or institution on your questions, and our panelists will answer your question during or after the panel discussion. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start. And for each speaker, we'll give about 10 to 12 minutes remarks, and I will give a reminder when the time is about closing the 12 minutes time. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce our panelist, our next speaker. He is the ambassador of is it Paidi? Jose. So ambassador for Federated Brazil for Indonesia, His Excellency Jose Amir da Costa Dornelles. Ambassador Jose has officially in the office since June 2020 this year, but he's been in Jakarta since February this year. We surely want to hear from Ambassador what can be improved in order to accelerate more fruitful discussion, more full bilateral relationship between the two countries, and probably how do you see the potential of Indonesian and Brazilian market. So without further ado, Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassadors, the time is yours.
Thank you very much. Let me first of all salute the participants. We are particularly honored with the presence of Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Mahendra Siregar, our colleague from the Directorate of America 2, and my dear friend and colleague, Ambassador Eddie Yusuf, who is alert, working at late hours in Brasilia right now. Salute Ms. Shinta Kamdani, who took the initiative of organizing this webinar, and the representative from the Brazilian exporters, beef exporters, and the director of Vale here in Indonesia. We are, as embassy here in Jakarta, we are particularly satisfied, happy of having this opportunity to discuss further possibilities of diversifying our bilateral trade in goods and services as well. I must say I am again particularly impressed with the vision of Ms. Shinta, whom I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of months ago at the Cadin's headquarters. We couldn't agree more. I mean, we have to be more ambitious, given the size of both Brazilian and Indonesian economies and the very diversified offer of products in agriculture and industry and capital goods and so on. We should have a much more diversified and important bilateral trade. So I think the job of an embassy is quintessentially particularly these days when you have everybody has such an easy access to information. Our job should focus principally in putting together businessmen and the people from both countries to get together, know each other, and identify possibilities of cooperation and business. So this is what we are doing now, even if in a more in the modest way to begin with. But I'm sure it will be a very fruitful discussion, and we will go on identifying possibilities. I think in the case of Brazil, for instance, I think we should go beyond soy, raw cotton, and sugar, which accounted for 70% of our exports in the first semester of this year. The same with Indonesia, which is very much concentrated in palm oil, although it's more scattered between textile yarns, natural rubber, and auto parts and other more industrialized items. But still, we should diversify, should make an effort to diversify our bilateral trade. I'm particularly happy that our Vice Minister reminded us of the discussions that will take place between Mercosur and Indonesia in order to get to a trade agreement in the future and facilitate our bilateral trade. I think we should go down to business now, and let me once again commend Kadin for taking this initiative. I couldn't agree more with Miss Shinta. As I said, she impresses me a lot for the very comprehensive and holistic picture she has of the whole relationship. As I said in my article in the Jakarta Post on the 7th of September, we both stand out in our regions as large economies, large markets, a advanced level of industrialization, and I think these characteristics should be reflected in our bilateral trade. Let's work on it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Obrigado. Terima kasih for your kind remarks and also the importance of further bilateral relationship between Indonesia and Brazil and exploring more opportunities between the two countries. I know you're new in Indonesia and probably not had the time to explore Indonesia, but I think that will come soon when this pandemic is over. Again, thank you, Your Excellencies. Our next speaker is our good friend, our ambassador to Brazil, His Excellency Pak Edi Yusuf. Pak kabar Pak Edi? We meet again. I think it's quite late in Brazil right now. It's quite early, probably quite late. So last time we met during the webinar hosted by Minister of Foreign Affairs. I think it's about 2 weeks ago. Sehat-sehat, Pak Edi. So Pak Edi has been in his post since March 2019. What we want from Pak Edi is views on the potential of Brazil market and also opportunities for the Indonesian business owners and entrepreneurs, not only for the big companies, obviously, but probably for the SMEs. So without further ado, Your Excellency, ambassadors, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Pak Agung Laksamana. Very pleased to meet you again virtually, Pak Agung. Yang terhormat Wakil Menteri Luar Negeri, Bapak Mahendra Siregar, my good friend and also my mentor. And also yang terhormat Ibu Sinta, Wakil Ketua Kadin, dan juga my good friend Ambassador Jose Amir. How are you, sir? I also would like to express my sincere thanks to Pak Daryanto and also Pak Nicholas Kanter dan para hadirin yang berbahagia. Very good morning to all of you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is my pleasure and honor this important occasion, which marks the 67th anniversary of Indonesia-Brazil bilateral relations. Allow me also to first congratulate Brazil for the 198th anniversary of independence. Our warmest wishes for Brazil's continued progress and prosperity. I agree with all previous speakers that this event presents us with invaluable opportunity to be forthcoming, to be straightforward over where we stand at the present and where we should be heading jointly for a stronger and more solid cooperation. As mentioned earlier by Ibu Sinta, Pak Mahendra, and also Ambassador Jose Amir, Indonesia and Brazil enjoy very close and substantive relationship. It is timely, I think, for us to give full meaning and effectiveness to our formal strategic partnership. Distinguished colleagues, because of the limited time and to avoid repetition what had been said by previous speaker, I just would like to focus on several points related to Brazil foreign policies and economic policies that, in my view, will have a better impact on our bilateral relations. On slide two, please. Actually, I have prepared more detailed PowerPoint presentation, but to save the time, previous slide, please. Previous slide, yeah. So, as I said earlier, that I just would like to focus on 5 key issues or policies that may have a better impact on our bilateral relations. The first one is that President Bolsonaro has a strong commitment to create more friendly and conducive environment for foreign investment, and is now actively pursuing a strategy based on increased trade and more integration into global value chains. So this is the first key policies that President Bolsonaro is pursuing. The second policy, Brazil is also pursuing trade agreement with many countries, both under the framework of Mercosur as well as bilaterally. Currently, Mercosur is negotiating with Canada, Republic of Korea, Singapore, and Vietnam. The third key policy, Brazil is expediting its process to become members of OECD. What it means that Brazil in the future will be more open economy to global economy. The fourth key issues or key policies that Brazil is pursuing is that Brazil now is developing an economic corridor, what they call as bioceanic route. It will actually facilitate among 4 countries by land, Brazil, Paraguay, Argentina, and Chile, and Asia. So under this new program, if Indonesia would like to export product to western part of Brazil, you don't need to export through port in São Paulo, but you can export to port in Chile, because the distance will be shorter and the cost of delivery of container will be cheaper also. And the fifth key policies, which is also important to be taken into consideration by Indonesia, is that Brazil refocuses its foreign policy to give proper priority of broadening and deepening its ties with Asia Pacific region, including Indonesia. So those are 5 key policies that I think would be beneficial for Indonesian companies to do business in Brazil in the future. I think on the trade cooperation, as mentioned by Ibu Sinta, our trade in 2019 is only 3 billion. I think this is far beyond the potential that we have. If you compare, maybe slide number 6. Number 6, slides number 6, yeah. Number 6. If we compare trade between Brazil and China, for instance, I think it was more than 98 billion, with Japan 9 billion, with Korea is 8 billion. Even with Vietnam higher than us. Vietnam is 4.5 billion, Malaysia 4 billion, Singapore 3.5 billion, and Indonesia is only 3 billion, less than Thailand. So we are still number 5. That's why I think I do agree with the previous speakers. I think it's time for us to explore and also to broaden the scope and the coverage of trade, including trade in service. And I think we should also explore the possibility of establishing joint production on certain product. There is actually interest from Brazilian companies to produce a certain product that could be exported to the third market. So instead of only focus on bilateral Indonesia and Brazil, we should also come up with joint production on certain product. I think one of the example that Brazil interest is to join develop the coconut. I think carco coconut. So we can develop that kind of product to be exported. Even in Brazil, the market is so huge. On the investment sectors, as mentioned by Pak Mahendra, I think we should also encourage outbound investment of Indonesia to Brazil. And I have discussed with some officials from Brazil investment authorities that there are still plenty of new investment opportunities for investment in Brazil, particularly in areas of agriculture, energy, mining, seaport, airport, railway, sanitation, and fintech, financial technology. So those are the investment opportunity that Brazil is attracting foreign investment, including from Indonesia. There is also a promising room for bilateral cooperation in science, in innovation, in health, as Pak Mahendra said earlier, in aircraft industry. I have been approached by Embraer, that Embraer is interested to have a joint development with PTDI to produce or design airplane, small aircraft, which is 50 to 70 seats. So those are the potential that I think we can work together. And just to conclude, I just would like to propose 4 priority agendas, some already mentioned by Pak Mahendra. The first one, as we also discussed in 2 weeks webinar earlier, that the first one is to establish Indonesia Trading House, or we call it Gerai Indonesia, because to promote product in Brazil, when you attend or participate in trade fair, in Brazil, most of the trade fair are conducted in very specific products. So if you want to have more Indonesian promotion, then you have to participate in many trade fair in Brazil. So I think one of the solutions is we should establish the Indonesian Trading House. And I have communicated with one of the Brazilian company, and they are ready to work together with Indonesia to establish Indonesia Trading House, or Gerai Indonesia. So that will be my priority agendas for the near future. The second agenda is to resume or to re-energize the existing dialogue mechanisms. Currently, we have Indonesia-Brazil Joint Commission, and we have also Trade Investment Working Group and consultative committee on agriculture. I think these two mechanism dialogue have not been meeting for quite some time. So I think we would like to resume these 3 dialogue mechanism virtually. And we have communicated with my colleague from Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Brazil and Ministry of Agriculture, as well as Ministry for Trade or Economic. So they are ready to explore the possibility of having a meeting virtually on these 3 dialogue mechanisms. I think the third agenda is to organize the second exploratory meeting of Indonesia-Mercosur FTA. Pak Agung and colleagues, but just for your information, that Mercosur has submitted the scoping paper on the possibility of Indonesia-Mercosur FTA negotiation. So I believe that they are ready to have the virtual meeting on the second meeting to discuss the scoping paper together with the feasibility study of Indonesia on the possible FTA Indonesia-Mercosur. So I hope that this meeting can be held at the end of this year, if possible, early next year. Otherwise, we will be because will be too late, because Vietnam is already in the 3rd stage of negotiation. Singapore is already in the process of negotiation. Vietnam has just finalized the exploratory meeting, and they will start negotiation process. So I think we should not delay the possibility to establish negotiation with Mercosur. And I have been approached that Thailand is also approaching Mercosur to explore the possibility of having FTA with Mercosur. So I think the final agenda is to, of course, bring more Brazilian companies to participate in the Trade Expo Indonesia and also the Indonesia Latin American Caribbean Business Forum. We have discussed Pak Jose Amir with the Apex and also the Brazilian Industry Association. And I got a good commitment that they are ready to participate in the Indonesia Latin America Caribbean Business Forum, as well as in the Trade Expo of Indonesia. With regard to the Indonesia Latin American Business Forum, Brazilian companies is suggesting that it would be also good for them to be given opportunity to promote their product to Indonesian companies, not only to bring buyers, but they also would like to promote their product to Indonesian companies in the Indonesia Latin American Business Forum. I think that's all what I can share with you. I have prepared all the PowerPoint presentation in detail, so you can distribute Pak Agung to distinguished participants. Thank you very much, Pak Agung.
Thank you, Pak Edi. Thank you, Ambassador, for your times. Also, your slide is quite an eye-opener, I think, for the Indonesian businessmen to see some of, well, the keyword probably we need to catch up because for the slide that we quite left behind in terms of our neighboring countries, Vietnam and the like, and Thailand. So by having key priorities, as you mentioned, the Indonesia Trading House, to sell our brands abroad, that's one of the key priorities for you, exploring more opportunities, trade opportunities, not only for the agriculture sector, but also, as you mentioned, science, health, and even aircraft. That's another thing that also Indonesian businessmen to look at. And I think one of the key things is familiarities of Brazil policies and regulations. That's also critical when Indonesian business wants to explore and expanding their business in the country. Hopefully to see you again, Pak, in November when we have this trade expo going on, and in Jakarta, along with all the businessmen that you're going to bring in from Brazil. So thank you, Pak. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker, panelist. She is the Executive Director of Brazilian Beef Export Associations, or ABEC, Ms. Ligi Nogueira. ABEC, established in 1979, as of today, is already bringing together about 32 companies of the sectors in Brazil and responsible, I think, about 92% of the meat traded for international market. According to ABEC profile, we read, Brazil produced about 10 million tons of beef, or about 21% are traded to countries across the globe. So let me pass on to Ms. Ligi Nogueira to share her perspective and her slides this morning. The time is yours.
Thank you very much. I wanted to say thank you to the invitation. It's possible to share maybe my screen to show the slides. So, just a moment. Okay. I represent the Brazilian Beef Association. Our association was founded in 1979. We have 32 companies of members of our association, and these 32 companies are responsible for 92% of the negotiated beef in the international market. In this map, we can see the location of the slaughterhouses that belongs to Brazilian Beef Association and that are able to export to the world. Brazil export to beef to more than 190 countries, different countries in the world. These companies are responsible for 49% of the total slaughterhouses in Brazil and 75% of the total animals slaughters per year in Brazil. We are throughout 121 municipalities in Brazil, And as we can see, we have a huge potential to amplify and to increase the number of companies that export to Indonesia at these days. We can see 10 establishments approved last year to export beef to Indonesia. So we have a lot of other companies that we can offer Brazilian beef. According to this, we can see here the logos and the name of all the companies that export beef to the world and to another countries than Indonesia. Here is we are trying to show a timeline about the history of Brazil and the international market. We have start a project called Brazilian Beef in Apex, that is an agency that promotes the exportation of the Brazil in 2001. And since then, Brazil is open new markets to export the beef. Here we can see the things about the sanity in Brazil, how we improve our conditions to export and how secure is our food and our beef to the world. I will talk about more this in next slides. Let me see here. Yes. So Brazil has the status of negligible BSE risk. We control and we belong to this selected list about the countries in the world. We can see here the map, the world map. We can see the countries that have the same status of Brazil. There is the minimum status and with the maximum security to export beef, and the other countries that have different status of BSE risk. It's the same about the foot and mouth disease status. Brazil is a member of the zones recognized as free with vaccination of the herd. And we have around us other countries with different status, without vaccination, suspension, or zone without official status. About the sector of livestock in Brazil, we see here Brazil has 163 million hectares of pastures. This is almost 9% of the total land in Brazil that we produce food. Our herd is 214 million heads in our herd about cattle. And we slaughter per year 43 million heads of cattle, and that belongs of this herd. About our production of beef, we produce more than 10 million tons per year. And about the sector in 2019, we export 2 million tons, and that represents 24% of the total produced. And we keep in the internal market for domestic consumption 76% of this total produced. In exportation, Brazil exports 82% of fresh beef, 10% of processed beef, and 8% of offals and other kinds of beef. It's important to say that in the commercial and the internal market and in the world, we have three kinds of beef to the first kind is beef ingredient, that we find this kind of beef in ground, sauce, sausage, and this kind of food is a kind of beef that we pay less, but we export more. The second step is beef cuisine, that we find in beef tin, some recipes, roast beef, meatloaf, as the same is more expensive than beef ingredient, but cheaper than beef gourmet. And the third one is beef gourmet or premium, that we use in steak, barbecue, tender. Is a high value, but we find less volume in the world in commercial and international market. According to this slide, we can see the countries that Brazil represent. We export more beef ingredient and beef cuisine. And in the beef gourmet, we can see our competitors, different countries exporting this category of beef. And Brazil present more here with India, the beef that actually is buffalo meat, not beef, but India exporting in the same category, beef ingredient, and the US export beef cuisine as Brazil. So this is the perception of the consumption, about the confidence and the quality perception. It's important to say when we talk about quality, is not the security of the food or of the beef. It's about the taste perception and how to use this kind of beef to eat. Here we can see why is different is the difference of the prices in each category of beef. We can see that the kind of beef we call here gourmet or premium belongs to this carcass zone 1, that we can find strip loin, tenderloin, rump, ribeye. These are cuts more expensive, and we export less. When I say we, I'm talking about all the competitors and countries that export beef in the world. And the other zones we find in beef ingredient and beef cuisine. So we can see here carcass zone 3 with this kind of cuts, neck, shoulder, brisket, chuck tender, and the zone 4 and zone 2, different kinds of cuts and different prices. We can see the added value in each zone. We can see here the zone 1 represents almost 33% of the value in a whole carcass, and we saw here 24% value, 18% value, and 25% value of different zones. If we compare with the weight, we see 15% of weight and 33% of value. In other zones, we see more weight and less value. This is the reason of the different prices in each kind of beef. Brazil top destinations in last year with Brazil export beef. We saw China and Hong Kong, Asia, the main countries in Asia that Brazil export last year. 20% of the total Brazilian beef exported belongs to the halal markets or Middle East, and Chile in Latin America represent 5% of the total Brazilian beef exported in 2019. This map, we show the markets that Brazil is working to open in this or the next year. Indonesia as an important market to us that we finally opened last year. And we thank you for this. And now we start the shipments in November of 2019. The history about the Brazilian beef exports starts in 2000, and every year we increase our exportation. Now, last year, we reached the historical record, 13% above 2018, and we reach a mark of 1.8 million tons of beef exported. Now, this year, we have the statistics until August. We reached the mark of 1.2 thousand tons of beef. About Indonesia, we export in 2019 3,000 tons. And now this year, we export until August to 2,500 tons of beef, fresh beef in main category that we export. These are the numbers monthly that Brazil export of the world. And here we can see the quantity that Brazil exports monthly to Indonesia. Last month, we export 474 tons. To finish, we would like to show the different countries that Brazil export in their ranking. We are comparing January to August 2019 with 2020 this year. We can see how we increase the volume to China, and other countries we decrease. We can see China, Hong Kong in second place, European Union in third position, and then finally Indonesia that we expected to increase in this position of exportation. The total volume here and the statistics only of this year is that. Thank you very much. This is my contact, and the presentation will be available for all of you.
Obrigado, Lady. Lady, thank you so much for your presentations, and data is quite impressive. I think there's a big drop into 2020 for export beef to Indonesia, but the potential is huge for the Indonesian market. I think we can review that during the discussion in November, how to increase the export of beef to Indonesia in November's discussions. Thank you once again. So further, for our, I would like to remind you that you can ask questions for the chat box. Also, we can have the discussion interactive later on, but just make sure to mention your name, your company, institutions, or your questions, and I will ask the panelists to answer your questions later on toward the end of our Q&A. So our next speaker, our panelist, is the Director of America Region 2 from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Pak Daryanto Harsono, our old friend or good friend among Latin America Network in Indonesia. Pak Daryanto is really well known, obviously. Pak Dar, surely would like to hear from you what the untapped market probably for Indonesia, which has not been entered to Brazil, or maybe along with, do we have a trade agreement with Brazil or Latin America countries? That probably you can update us during this discussion. Pak Dar, the time is yours. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Pak Agung Laksamana. Your Excellency, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic Indonesia, Mr. Mahendra Siregar, His Excellency Mr. Jose Amir da Costa Dornelles, Ambassador of Federative Republic of Brazil to Indonesia, His Excellency Mr. Edi Yusuf, Ambassador of Indonesia for Federative Republic of Brazil, Ms. Ibu Sinta Kamdani, Vice Chairwoman of International Relations Kadin, Mrs. Lietz Virgil Noguere, Executive Director of ABIEC, Mr. Nicholas Kanter, President Director of Vale Indonesia, and also, last but not least, Mr. Agung Laksamana from Bilateral Committee Kadin Indonesia for Brazil as our distinguished moderator today. First and foremost, I would like to apologize for joining discussion a bit late, as I also had another webinar on the commemoration of 40 years of Indonesia and Colombia relations. So my highest appreciation to Kadin Indonesia for organizing this webinar in the commemoration of 67th anniversary of bilateral relation between Indonesia and Brazil. It is great honor for me to be able to join with this virtual discussion with all of you. So if possible, let me share the presentation. Is it okay? Yes, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I believe you already received through information about the relation between Indonesia and Brazil from the two distinguished panelists before us. So for my part today, I would like to give you an overview of Indonesian perspective towards the whole region, Latin America, and important role of the Brazil that Brazil has. So briefly, this is going to be outline of my presentation, Indonesia, Latin America, and the Caribbean. First, I will be brief in this matter, and then also Indonesia and Brazil, challenges and strategies, INALAC Business Forum 2020, and last is a way forward. Next. Now, Indonesia and Latin America. In our ministry, there are around 33 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. And in that region, Indonesia has 11 embassies that oversees the bilateral relation between those countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. Next, please. This is our representative in Latin America. For example, our embassy in Brasilia, Bogota, Buenos Aires, Caracas, Lima, Paramaribo, Quito, Santiago, Panama, and Havana. So Indonesia has enjoyed relatively good relation with our Latin American counterpart, especially in the realm of politics and socio-cultural. However, we're still facing a lot of challenges in increasing the economic relations. For your information, my directorate oversees the region of Latin America and the Eastern Caribbean, which consists of 20 countries and 8 embassies. So the data that I will use, that I'm going to use, are for the Latin American and Eastern Caribbean regions. Next slide, please. This is the significance of Latin American and Caribbean, the East Caribbean regions. Has the population around 646 million of the people, with total GDP of around 5.71 trillion US dollar, and then the export values is around 3.2 billion US dollar. This is the main export products. You can see here the automotive vehicles, soap products, paper products, footwear products, electronic machines, natural rubber, and yarn. And then potential export products. This is a manufactured tobacco, substitutes, optical instruments, pharmaceutical product, canned food, vegetable oils, machinery, plastic products, and furniture. So in line with the guidelines from our President Joko Widodo, Indonesia opened its export to non-traditional market. I prefer to use a potential market. And Latin America is one of the prospective and potential markets for Indonesia. Now let me touch upon our bilateral relation between Indonesia and Brazil. Next slide, please. So maybe it's already mentioned by the previous speakers that Indonesia has diplomatic ties with Brazil since March 1953. This photos describe our first president visit to Brasilia in 1953, and these pictures taken by in front of the land where our embassy is now in Brazilian City. So since then, Indonesia has enjoyed a relatively good diplomatic relation with Brazil. Next slide, please. This is the importance of Brazil, the biggest economy in Latin America, with the GDP of 1.8 billion US dollar, member of the G20, BRICS, Mercosur. And then Brazil, like also in Indonesia, it has a very big population. Brazil has around 210 million people. So more than 100 million is in productive age. Brazil is only country in Latin America that has a strategic partnership with Indonesia. Next slide, please. So in terms of the trade commodities, we export to vegetables, animals fats, man-made fibers, rubber, electric machine, vehicles, nuclear reactors, and mechanical equipments, and footwear, organic compounds, artificial filaments, and steel. And we import milk, cottons, vehicles, tobacco, processed wheat, iron and steel, and nuclear reactors and mechanical equipment, ready-to-eat food, minor ore and metal fused waste, and pharmaceutical products. And now, next slide, please. Indonesia trade is now is a deficit with Brazil. In 2018 and 2019, Indonesia experienced the large trade deficit with Brazil, around 650,000 US dollars in 2018, and also around 638,000 US dollar in 2019. So along with Brazil, Indonesia also a large trade deficit with Argentina, Ecuador, and Chile. So Indonesia has a relative surplus only with Peru and Colombia in 2019. Now, let me touch about the challenges that we are facing. Next slide, please. As what I also have briefly presented in the Rakornas last week, organized by Kadin, we have also identified some challenges that hinder the economic relations between Indonesia and Brazil. First, a distance. Indonesia and Latin America is half globe part, which automatically create assumption of the high cost and on doing business between Indonesia and Brazil, and also with Latin America and the Caribbean in general. And then second is connectivity issues in flight connection and also visa. The average flights would have around 2 or 3 stopovers with limited option of air routes that has simultaneously increased the cost of traveling. The third is a language barrier. Language barriers have sometimes become the impediment for the fluidity of interaction between the two. And then the fourth is lack of knowledge of information, limited and knowledge about the potential of each other. With the huge distance and language barriers, one can predict how limited we know about each other, especially in regards of the economic potentials of the two regions. So the trade barriers also as one of our challenges. So both Indonesia and Brazil have faced trade barriers on doing trade towards each other, tariff and non-tariff barriers. So what will we do now? So next slide, maybe I can explain about the strategy. So first, the strategy is a consistent promotion. So consistently promoting and disseminating information about the potentials of Indonesia and Latin America and the Caribbean, especially Brazil, it will be an important one. Because as we said in Indonesia, that I already mentioned this morning by our minister, Ambassador Mahendra Sregar that tak kenal maka tak sayang. So if you don't know, maybe you will love. If you don't know us, you will not love us. So you need to know about a country in order to grow interest to have a business with. Second is a good market intelligence. I believe knowledge is a power. So it is important to equip each other with the sufficient information of economic situation and potentials of the two countries in order to achieve this and good market intelligence is for us is maybe I personally is very substantial. One example that I can think of is informing people that the cost of shipping from Indonesia to Brazil, for instance, is more or less the same with cost of shipping to US or Europe, for example. And the next is optimizing the existing bilateral platform in the terms of the G2G. Indonesia, Brazil have several important bilateral mechanisms that have been dormant, such as a working group on the trade and investment, consultative committee on agriculture, and bilateral consultation forum and a joint commission meeting. So I think with this bilateral platform, we can continue to increase our dialogue in order to increase our understanding about both potentials. And then the fourth is free trade agreement between Indonesia and Mercosur. So the establishment of trade agreements is highly important, especially to lower the costs and make Indonesian product more competitive in the regions. Indonesia is now commencing its process to join FTA with the Mercosur. With this, Indonesia will have a success not only to Brazil, but also to other members of Mercosur, like Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. So fifth is building platforms to connect people. So building platform as a go-to place to cater every inquiries on interest regarding both countries. That is why I see the establishment of Indonesia Committee of CADIN for Brazil as a great example or a starting point. I believe we can expand this even more, not only in terms of trade, but also in other areas of cooperation. For example, education, socioculture, and media connectivity. Next slide, please. So, allow me to explain in this occasion about the INALAC Business Forum to 2020. So as a part of our efforts to promote and connect business people between Indonesia and Latin America and the Caribbean, especially in Brazil, we are hosting the second INALAC Business Forum in 9 and 11 November 2020. This forum is responding to the challenges brought by the pandemic. The event will be held virtually through the web platform, which will be ready to launch in the early of October this year. The web will showcase of potential products and investment projects from Indonesia, as well as facilitating one-on-one business meeting between a private sectors. I hope we can count on the full support of the businessmen in CADIN to ensure the success of this event. This platform will be a very good opportunity and the most efficient way to make a valuable connection for B2B enterprises between Indonesia and Brazil. And the next slide, please. So the way forward, we reach now we reach the end of my presentation. In the end, in order to handle the challenges and support the strategies, both government of Indonesia and Brazil need to do the following as a way forward. First is Indonesia and Brazil will always be adaptive and innovative and transformative and relevant to the market needs. So Indonesia and Brazil also would go to global in terms of quality standard, supply, sustainability, and etc. And then we will optimize the digital technology target a wider potential market, and also we will coordinate and integrated product promotion. I think this is my presentation, Pak Agung, and then thank you for this opportunity. And then I do hope that you all well and stay healthy. Thank you very much.
Healthy, Pada. Thank you so much. As always, inspiring to listen to your presentations. And I think one of the key takeaway I noticed you offering very tactical strategies. I noted here consistent promotion on brands, products, and awareness for both countries, and also data is critical these days. Good market intelligence, because without data you don't know the market and how big the size of the market is, and platforms to connect the people. I think it's quite important during these days, and virtual online like this, you have to explore a lot of platforms to meet the business needs, not only going online, but also not only offline, but also online. So Pak, we're looking forward to the upcoming virtual event, 9 and 11 November 2020 this year. So we'll meet soon. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you very much.
Director. So lastly, I'm pleased to introduce our next speakers from Vale, Indonesia. Vale, as we all know, is a global leader in iron ore production and also second largest nickel producer in the world. It's from Brazil originally. Pak Nico Kanter is the President Director of Vale, Indonesia. It is our pleasure to have you here this morning, Pak Nico. We surely want to hear from you as Vale example as a Brazilian success story in Indonesia. Maybe you can share some of your experience, some of the challenges, and how the Brazilian-based company able to invest in Indonesia is going forward. Pak Nico, over to you. The time is yours.
Thank you very much, Pak Agung Laksmana, for the kind introductions. First of all, I'm very pleased and honored for me to actually be able to speak and share some of our experience of the success story. But please allow me first to actually greet the distinguished panel this morning. First and foremost, of course, the Vice Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Indonesia, my very good friend, His Excellency Pak Mahendra Siregar, and also another good friend of mine, Ibu Shinta Kamdani, the Vice Chairwoman of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, and the Ambassador of the Federated Republic of Brazil to the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Sir Jose Amir da Costa Dornelles, and then also His Excellency the Ambassadors of Republic of Indonesia to the Federated Republic of Brazil, Bapak Yang Terhormat Pak Edi Yusuf, and then the Executive Director of Brazilian Beef Exporters Associations, Ms. Diego Gorgili Nogueira, the Director of America Regional 2 from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, Pak Daryanto Harsono. Good morning to you all and all the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, maybe let me share with you, because some of you may not know about Vale, but Vale is actually, as we know, is a Brazilian-based huge corporations. It is one of the largest metals and mining companies in the world, with a market cap of around $70 billion. Operations in 38 countries and around 80,000 employees. Vale is the world's largest producers of iron ore, and then one of the world's largest producers of nickel. In Indonesia, Vale has investment in nickel through PT Vale Indonesia Tbk, which has a long and proud history, 52 years. Our shareholders' composition is around 60% Vale SA, 20% Sumitomo Metal Mining, and then 20% is public. Vale, of course, has operated under a contract of work since 1968. Ours was the first contract of work that reached agreement, and we signed a COW amendment in October 2014, which basically demonstrates that our commitment to align with the spirit of the Mining Law number 4/2009. PT Vale plant in Sorowako, South Sulawesi, is among the largest laterite nickel mining and processing operations. So it is an integrated processing in the world. It basically employed, together with the contractors, around 5,000 employees, people, in which 99.8% are Indonesians, and around 93% are from the region. Now, we currently are producing around 75 kilotons of nickel in matte per year. And currently we are expanding our operations capacity to 90 kilotons in the Sorowako block. In addition to that, We have been working with our partners. Now we are still under the process of developing the mine and also build smelters in Bahadopi, which is located in the central Sulawesi, and also in Pomala as part of our investment commitment to the Indonesian government. PT Vale prides ourselves on being a responsible miner because basically we are applying the best mining practice and strictly adhering to the sustainable principle. This approach has led to the recognitions and award that we received from the government of Indonesia and international institutions. PT Vale is known to be the green mining company in Indonesia. We have a very high standard in compliance, governance, safety, and environment. We believe that this has set PT Vale ahead of other foreign miners in Indonesia. It is also important to note that during the COVID-19 pandemic, not only that we managed the operations by focusing on the safety of our people and the community, but we are also imposing a very strict protocols where our operations and people are not impacted. I just shared in the public expose recently that our operations in the first half semester is actually better than last year. In addition to that, PT Vale has spent approximately $3.1 million for in-kind donations to help the provincial and the local government in handling the pandemic. In addition to Vale, Vale, in addition to the PT Vale, Vale also through the Vale explorations, which is the Sumbawa Timur mining, made a significant copper gold discovery in Indonesia in 2013 and aims to develop a world-class mining operation in Sumbawa. So Sumbawa Timur mining is currently progressing in pursuing the mineral explorations, feasibility study, and the geothermal license to continue with the further operations. We are committed to developing this project. Of course, with the investment that quite significant investment of around $4 billion. So Vale basically believes that our interests and objectives are quite aligned with the government, and in particular, Inalum mine idea. So we are also in the final process of divestment 20% of our shares to Inalum, because we see that Inalum, being as the holding company, they can become a strategic partners for us in Indonesia. Our visions and values, including, of course, what was being directed by the President of Indonesia in respect to the downstreaming processing, which to create value in the country, are similarly aligned. The fact that we both have world-class nickel and copper deposit enhances the potential opportunities for cooperations. Furthermore, the proximity of the Sumbawa Timur mining, which the location is actually quite close to Freeport, provides another potential synergy between Vale and Inalum. So ultimately, Vale acknowledges that the unique positions of Inalum, and as a holding mining company which is 100% owned by the government of Indonesia, will actually create a synergy and strategic alliance between Vale and the government of Republic Indonesia. So of course now some of the things that we are facing still, some of the challenge is that related to the permitting, some of the issues of the corporate governance is an issue that we still need to manage carefully to move forward. But we experienced this last few months that the government is very committed to support us in facilitating all the permits that is required so that we can actually come up with the final investment decisions for the two big projects that we had in Central Sulawesi and also in the Southeast Sulawesi. That probably concludes my my sharing with you, and I'm ready to answer any questions. Thank you, and then over to you again, Pak Agung Laksmana. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think given with the brief discussion that you share is quite promising, and how Vale Indonesia is expanding, I must say, its market and seeking the potential of growth in Indonesia. I think I congratulate you for that. So. Finalists, distinguished guests, all the participants, that's the discussion we have. I think we're now to next session is to have the Q&A with our panelists. We received a lot of questions from the chat forum, but I think I'm just going to ask directly to our ambassadors and a few panelists from here. The first question is to Eddie. I'm just going to sum up 3 questions at the same time. So one of the questions by Eddie is that they see the herbal market as a potential soya fiber products, energy drinks, with all the ingredients, including luwak coffee, and they would like to know, our participants would like to know, are these potential for Indonesians business to grow to Brazil? And your view, how big is the demand in Brazil in those areas? Are they marketable enough? And what are some of the hurdles, maybe some of the challenges if they would like to explore and go venture to Brazil market? So soya, kopi luwak, energy drinks, those are the questions from the chat box. Mungkin Pak Edi, I'll give it the floor to you.
Terima kasih Pak Agung. Maybe for the kopi luwak, kita sudah bisa menjual ini Pak. Ini kopi luwak merek Komos Gayo, kopi luwak. Ini sudah kita pasarkan di Brazil. Cuma kalau untuk energy drink memang ada peraturan yang sangat ketat di Brazil. Jadi harus masuk ke Badan POM dulu dan di Kementerian Kesehatan juga. Jadi ini memang prosesnya agak lama. Tetapi mungkin saya terus terang belum mempelajari lebih detail, tapi kalau boleh ada informasi mengenai HS code-nya, Pak. Mungkin kalau ada produk dengan HS code-nya sehingga kami bisa telusuri berapa besar import mereka untuk produk herbal tersebut. Dan kita kebetulan ada langganan statistik dengan BPS ini, Pak. Jadi langganan statistik ini kami bisa menelusuri siapa importernya dan berapa banyak importnya selama berapa tahun terakhir. Jadi just for your information that if you can identify the highest code for your products, it will be easier for me to do research on who is the importer and how big is the import for that certain product in Brazil. So I hope that you could also inform us the highest code of the certain products that you wish to sell to Brazilian market. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Edi. So the market is quite big still, probably, Pak Edi, given from your sayings, and I think it's good. I think we have to check the highest code from the trade departments, and then we know how big the market is, marketable, and also the regulation, as you always mention, especially for the energy drink, karena bahan pomnya ini agak quite tough juga in Brazil market. So I think that's the thing that we need to be aware of. Ada ITPC juga Pak di sana yang bisa bantu.
But I think we should try. We should try.
Okay, I see. Thank you, Betty. So I would like to raise another question to our ambassadors, Mr. Jose, Your Excellency. Maybe if you can share, what are the challenges, maybe from the Brazil business communities when they're starting their business here in Indonesia? Also, maybe you can share some of the untapped market from your perspective that maybe the Brazilian business community would like to explore and expand their market here in Indonesia. So probably those 2 questions we can ask to Ambassador Brazil. Your Excellency. Still mute?
Is it working out? Are you listening?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, now we can hear. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we are not currently trying to explore the possibilities of exporting poultry, meat, and beef. I think Indonesia is such a huge market, and Brazil is a reliable exporter of quality products, good price, competitive price and quality, and we should explore this possibility. Of course, we have much in common, such a way that we do produce the similar tropical products, which if not competitors, at least are available in both countries. But both Brazil and Indonesia are, as I said in my presentation, are very much advanced from the industrial point of view. And I think we could try to identify industrial products that could be in offer in both countries that could be interesting. For instance, capital goods and parts of vehicles. Well, we should work on it. There are possibilities. I'm really a few months here in a quite unprecedented, complicated situation with this COVID-19. So I haven't had actually the opportunity of getting some more information. But as I said, this occasion is conducive to get together Brazilian and Indonesian exporters and businessmen, and I think it should be explored. Well, thank you for the time being. This is what I'd like to point out. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. I would like to face another questions to our director, Padar. Padar, I think maybe you can, Padar Sono, maybe you can share with us by having the trade agreement with Brazil and some other Latin American countries, what will be the clear benefiting for our businessmen when they want to explore and expanding their business to Brazil? So I think maybe not too many people will familiar with trade agreements and FTA, and by sharing this, maybe they can see the clear benefit and beneficial for them when they want to grow their business to different countries like Brazil and Latin America. Padar?
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Agung Laksamana. I think the free trade agreement with our partners, especially in Latin America, is one of the important instrument or strategies to increase our export to that regions. To be honest, now we are still developing a free trade, some free trade agreement with various countries in Latin America. For the time being, we only have a free trade agreement, that is a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Chile. And then now we are in the beginning phase of meeting with Mercosur to negotiate the free trade agreement with the member of Mercosur, where Brazil is one of the members. So and then also with we are still ongoing also process to start the negotiation with Colombia, and then also with Ecuador. We are started joint feasibility studies, and also we are continue to boost to start the negotiation with Peru as well. What is the importance of this instrument? Because once we have an agreement, free trade agreement, so the tariff barrier, more or less, it can reduce, because we are agreed the tariff barrier to reduce in some for some products. For example, including ICCPA, we reduce more than 7,000 products into 0%. So it means that our products, through this agreement, can be competitive with other products. So, you know, for the time being, the tariff is one of our challenges to increase the export to Latin America and the Caribbean. So one of the advantage is the exporters, businessmen, can enjoy the tariff reductions when their products come to the countries. I think this my answer, Pak Agung.
Thank you, Pak Director. Reduced tariff, exports becoming competitive advantage for Indonesian businessmen, not only for the big companies, obviously, but also for the SMEs who wants to go expanding their business to Latin America, not only Brazil, yeah, Pak Daria, but also
Exactly.
the rest of the countries, Latin, Chile, and Argentina, and the rest. One question to Liji Abiek from the Abiek associations. I'm sure you know that Indonesia is a huge Muslim country. What's your views, and maybe you can share some of the opportunities for this halal market in Indonesia? How do you see that's going forward from your perspective?
Thank you for the question. And halal markets in Indonesia has a great potential to export Brazilian beef. Even it's important to say that Brazil export to different demands of religious issues and other kinds of slaughters. So Brazil is the main supplier of halal beef in the world, and even in not only in Middle East but in Asia also. And we are trying to negotiate open markets in halal markets in Asia too. And as Indonesia as a huge and important partner of Brazil in beef, we can explore more and offer great and competitive price of beef in this market too.
Thank you, Liji. That's a huge potential because Indonesia, the total population, 270 million, I think it's about 80% are Muslim. I think it's a huge potential for ABX to explore with the trade departments and how to expand the business growing in Indonesia. We have Pak Edi Lukman. Pak Edi Lukman, apa kabar, Pak? Thank you for joining the discussions, and I'm sure some of the teams and participants will be in contact with you to know about the association yang di-leading oleh Pak Edi Lukman. Pak Edi, terima kasih. I have another question to Pak Nico. Pak Nico, it's a great presentation I mentioned earlier on. Maybe you can share some of the concern, because this is a mining industry, core and nickel industry, and that you're growing in Indonesia. The aspect of sustainability, is there some issues and maybe some pressure group that always raising the issue about sustainabilities and practices of a company such as yours, and how because it's based on Brazil, and how do you cope with that situations? Pak Nico?
Thank you, Pak Agung. It's a very good question, because as you all know that mining company, we basically are mining. So we are actually destroying the earth. One thing that we actually need to demonstrate also to mostly are the NGOs, that even we are in a mining company, but we can also actually adhere to all this sustainability concept. And when it comes to sustainability, we are not only looking at how we actually mine using all the best mining practices, but also we also need to show care towards the people. So society where we operate. So Vale, as I said earlier on, we are not only from the corporations, we have a very, very strict agenda for sustainability, like the carbon neutral. I mean, this is a very, very actually, I should say, very ideal things. And then it is very costly, but then the commitment is there. So all the projects that we are now trying to put together with the partners, now we need to change, because initially we are going to use the coal power plant, but now we actually need to change it more sustainable power plant. So just to show that the demonstration that we are really looking into the environmental, very strict. So water usage, how do we actually manage the emissions, the mine water effluent, and then the waste to protect the environment where we operate. And as we are very proud to also share that we already just get the green proper from the government of Republic Indonesia. It actually demonstrates that our commitment, not only that we are receiving lots of awards from the government and as well as from the international institutions, but also we are aiming to go beyond just compliance. So I think it demonstrates this, and with that commitment and evidence, actually the NGOs and the society acknowledge that too. So maybe that is my answer, Pak Agung. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Nikos. I think the key is transparency these days, especially in the area of sustainability. That's what not only the stakeholders, but also the customer wants to know what's going on. Are you doing the best practices in place? Well done, Pak Nico. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, all the panelists, for the closing remarks, I would like to ask, we still have a lot of questions, still have time still, but I think time is almost running out. May I ask 1 minute closing remarks from each of the panelists, from your excellencies, so we can summarize what we key takeaway from our discussions and the 67 principle, Indonesia and Brazil. So may I give the floor to your excellencies, Mr. Jose, to give his closing remarks, and followed by Eddie as well.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank again Kadin for the initiative. I think it's an important step to start putting people together to exchange views and to explore actual possibilities of improving our bilateral trade, not only in terms of value, but in terms of diversification and value added. Both Indonesia and Brazil have much to offer to each other. So I thank Kadin for this initiative, and we keep at your disposal for further initiatives of the same nature. Thank you very much. And my salutation to my friends, the ambassador in Brasilia, the vice minister, and the director for America too. Thank you very much.
Obrigado. Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, Pak Eddie, do you want to give one closing remarks before the closing?
Thank you, Pak Agung Laksamana. I just would like to echo what has been said by Ambassador Jose Amir, that this is an excellent initiative, particularly to have a meeting virtually. I think by having this kind of meeting, we don't feel that the distance is a matter. So I think we can meet each other anytime easily. So I hope that we can have more virtual meeting like this. So hopefully that next time we could focus on certain commodities to be discussed. So bringing some Brazilian companies and Indonesian companies together, I'm ready to facilitate, if possible, to have specific meeting on certain product, for instance, like herbal products. So I think we can have that kind of virtual meeting in the very specific products, so the meeting can be more effective. Thank you, Pak Agung.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. Probably our next panelist, Pak Daryanto Arsono, Pak Direktur. Maybe you want to give one closing remarks to our participants.
Thank you, Pak Agung. After fruitful deliberations on the occasion of 67th anniversary of Indonesia and Brazil diplomatic relations, let me present my views in 3 points. First, in the age of 67, the relationship between Indonesia and Brazil has been very close, and we have enjoyed very good and stable relationships. However, there is still plenty of room to increase our cooperations. And second, there are many potentials in various sectors that can be further explored for the benefits of the people of our two countries. And I believe that this event is a testament for our continued commitment to increase cooperation between Indonesia and Brazil. So finally, once again, let me congratulate Kadin and you, especially Pak Agung Laksamana, for excellent organization of this international webinar. And I would like to commend various resource person and you, Pak Agung, as moderator, provided our discussion with much needed depth and substance. Thank you very much, Pak Agung.
Thank you, Pak Director. All the best to upcoming event kita di November, Pak. Well done.
Thank you, Pak. Thank you, Pak.
Please, Lady Noguera, may I have your one closing remark on behalf of RBX?
Thank you. I wanted to say thank you to this opportunity, this important event between Brazil and Indonesia, and say that we are very excited to export to Indonesia our Brazilian beef, and expected to open new plants in Brazil, approve new industries to export more, and establish a solid partnership between the both countries. Thank you very much, and count on us with anything.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Lastly, I would like to ask Pak Nico Kanter, our President Director for Vale Indonesia, to give his closing remarks to all the participants. Pak Nico.
Thank you, Pak Agung. To close my speech, I will relate that to your questions, actually, that I want to emphasize that nickel has an important role in the metal, as a metal in the future. Nickel plays a significant role in the manufacturers of the electric vehicle and various technology transfer devices towards a more environmentally friendly civilizations. Now, we interpret this potential demand as a challenge to produce nickel more responsibly instead of exploring as many nickel resources as possible. So the final nickel product, which is an important component of environmentally friendly commodity, should be mined and processed using practices and promote the principle of sustainability. And that's what Vale, a Brazilian company through PT Vale, is doing in Indonesia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pak Nico. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Your Excellency, all the participants, this should conclude our webinar this morning. Thank you once again to our honored guest speakers, Ibu Mahendra, our Vice Minister, Ibu Sinta. We would like to express our gratitude for all the participants this morning. So with our 67 years of friendship, I think what we can conclude as a key takeaway from this discussion today, it's more important for Indonesia and Brazil to once again exploring all the potential opportunities, promoting both sides, business opportunities, economic, both producer and exporters. And that's our role in Kadin, in particular Kadin Brazil, to seek more cooperations and collaborations going forward. So that should conclude the webinar. By the way, we have the kadinbrazil.com website as well, so you can contact and email us if you have any questions about Brazil and Indonesia relationship. So thank you all for attending. Thank you all our distinguished guests. Until next time, terima kasih, obrigado. See you in our next event.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pak.
Thank you.
Have been cancelled. Traveling is challenging. Schools are closed. Children have been forced to study at home.
5, 6.
And borders are closed. But Our eucalyptus trees continue to grow. Seedlings continue to be planted. Plantation continues to provide oxygen to the air. And essential products are being shipped to the people who need them. So whether people are out at work or adapting to the new normal at home, we're still here, improving lives for our community and our country.